All right, so let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION this hour, where against a very chaotic backdrop in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, Western nations are still scrambling to vacate as soon as possible from Afghanistan. Now, American President Joe Biden has ordered all troops to be out of Afghanistan by the end of this month. And yet there are some pleas from European allies for more time to get people out. Now, amidst the ambiguity over the final date of America's withdrawal and hasty retreat from Afghanistan, the American Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has said that the Taliban have vowed and have given a safe passage for the Americans, the Afghans who are at risk, and also for third country nationals. Once the pull-out deadline passes, which means that the entire evacuation process is now possibly could spill over the deadline, although the Taliban has clearly warned of serious consequences, but the Americans claim that they still have a safe passage. There's a massive airlift of foreign nationals and also their families, along with some Afghans, is presently underway. At least about 4,500 American citizens and at least about 6,000 Americans who wanted to leave Afghanistan have now departed. Blinken has said that now as many as 1,500 American nationals still need to be evacuated from Afghanistan, as the due date, that is the 31st of August, is now inching closer. And the Taliban has pledged to allow some departures after the American troops leave the country on the 31st of August.
The Taliban have made public and private commitments to provide and permit safe passage for Americans, for third country nationals, and Afghans at risk going forward past August 31st. From my perspective, from the President's perspective, this effort does not end on August 31st. It will continue for as long as it takes to help get people out of Afghanistan who wish to leave.
Now, American officials are in direct contact with about 500 Americans who want to leave Afghanistan and have stayed on pretty much till the fag end. They've been provided with specific instructions on how to get to the airport safely. For the remaining 1,000 Americans, U.S. officials are very aggressively trying to reach out to them to determine whether they still want to leave Afghanistan or whether they would prefer to in fact stay back in Afghanistan, now ruled by the Taliban. When asked about what is being done to keep the Kabul airport functioning after the U.S. troops leave, Blinken said that regional countries were in fact looking into whether they can now play a role in keeping the airport open. He also further added that the Taliban has made it abundantly clear that they have a very strong interest in having a functional airport in Kabul. Now, speaking on the future relations with the Taliban, Antony Blinken said that the Americans will judge engagement with any Taliban-led government in Afghanistan based on one simple proposition, and that is the pursuit of American interests. And if the Taliban were to continue to make good on the commitments that it has made, that is to allow people who want to leave Afghanistan to leave, then that's a government that the United States can work with. These are the words of Antony Blinken. Now remember, it's over 11 days since the Taliban in fact has swept to power. On the 15th of August, when the Taliban captured Kabul, the United States and its allies have tried to evacuate as many people as possible. Now, more than 82,000 people reportedly have been evacuated from Afghanistan in what is being described as arguably the largest airlift in American history, as more than 10,000 people are still currently at Kabul airport waiting to be evacuated from Afghanistan. The United States military has said that it will now shift its focus in the final 2 days from assisting the fleeing civilians to evacuating its own troops first. Now, Biden, who is implementing a withdrawal negotiated by his predecessor Donald Trump, has said that the American troops in Afghanistan are facing mounting danger if they were to stay on. He's also ordered the development of alternative plans that could be used should the final withdrawal date be extended. Now, Biden has also been briefed on contingency plan for Afghan evacuation as well as the threat from the ISIS Khorasan militant group, which, remember, for the last several years had been fighting the Taliban. It had remained a fairly subdued group, but now the Americans feel that more than the Taliban, they have a threat from the ISIS Khorasan group. Meanwhile, the foreign troops are approaching their deadline in Afghanistan. The question, of course, is, will the Americans be able to pull out of Afghanistan in time? And what happens if Biden were to fail to deliver on this promise. Now, to understand this, Patricia Lewis, who is the Director of International Security Programme at Chatham House, gives a detailed report. Listen in.
There's a huge amount of stuff that has to be done, including getting all the people out who are doing the job, and all the equipment, all of the stuff that they need to get out that they don't want the Taliban to get hold of, names and all of that, and making sure it's all done properly, because to do otherwise would be awful. And you would need, you would expect and hope that all of that was being handled really carefully all the way through, but you would need to do a final, last minute check, as it were. So I don't think there's long to go now, to be honest. And also I think that, all of the allies are highly dependent on the US for military cover, particularly air cover. And so they can't put their own people at risk. So it really depends on the US when the US starts packing up.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.